And here we come with, we have this more concrete way of defining knowledge economy. So we started with a very general concept, and now we're focusing down to what are referred to as pillars. I mean, those elements that make a knowledge economy. Innovation, education, ICT, social inclusion, in my opinion, and habilitating policy and institutional regimes. But what really characterizes a country is, in deploying knowledge economy, is the virtuous cycle produced by the simultaneous and seamless investment in these 5 pillars that converts knowledge into tangible asset. Why I want to pause on this concept? Because in my previous experience at IADB, of course, the bank is still one of the major lenders in the Latin American and Caribbean region in the different sectors that we have listed here: innovation, education, ICT, social inclusion, habilitating policy and institutional regimes. But it's quite difficult to find an approach or a project that would include the 5 pillars where the investment would be deployed simultaneously. This is what we are aiming at, trying to provide this new recipe on how investment should be carried out simultaneously and seamlessly in these 5 pillars in order to create the famous virtuous cycle we referred to before. When we refer to the 5 pillars of knowledge economy, we just listed them, but we haven't actually defined them in terms of what is inside each one of the pillars. As far as the innovation is concerned, we have the organization that tap into stock of global knowledge and adapt it or create new knowledge. In terms of education, it's quite evident that an educated and skilled population can better use knowledge effectively. ICT, in terms of infrastructure, facilitate effective communication, dissemination, processing of information. Social inclusion is probably, to me, is one of the most important elements of this new approach, because without social inclusion, there can be growth, but not development. And policy institution government should provide incentives for the creation and dissemination of knowledge. The interconnected and interdependent, let's say, approach is what characterizes the knowledge economy. And consequently, when a country or a state, like in the case of Brazil, launches a project like the social inclusion of people with disability, bear in mind this concept. At the same time, he wants to, let's say, invest in this 5 sector simultaneously. This is a famous slide that probably you have already seen in other publication, and this here just to give you a comparison among Latin America, East Asia, and the Pacific, and the G7, in terms of what are the some index that are used in order to quantify how a country is ready to deploy a knowledge economy. Even though these are figures, just figures, they give you the perception of how Latin America ranks among other countries in these parameters. But I mean, the region is catching up, and Brazil is the right example. Before commenting this slide, I would like to ask Anna if she can launch the second poll about what I presented as a concept of knowledge economy and the way the you audience, or the 70% of the audience that responded before the yes had a concept of knowledge economy, think the knowledge economy should be, so that we can create a kind of debate on this concept. So the poll is, the one that we decided with Anna was how many of you agree on the previous definition of knowledge economy, and if you don't, if you have some other definition of knowledge economy.
It looks like everybody agrees on this definition.
Good.
And I will
Yeah. Okay.
open the other one. And it looks like nobody would care to propose an alternate definition.
Good. Okay. So if we agree on the concept, now let's have a look to the disparities among the different countries or selected countries in terms of patents issued by USA versus other countries. It is important to understand where countries stand in terms of their activity related to the concept of knowledge economy. If you look at the two graphs here, the one on the left, I kindly ask you to pay attention to the scale. It's from zero to 90,000, versus the one on the right is from 0 to 900. And this is data that are extrapolated from a book that I contributed to during my work at the IDB. So you will see the striking difference between the countries on the left, USA, Japan, and Korea, and the country on the right, Finland, Spain, China, and Ireland, in terms of patents issued by selected countries, not only USA versus others. And look at the same concept as far as Latin America is concerned. So Brazil is ranking the first one, but on a scale from 0 to 135. So the difference is striking in terms of the patents. They also see the same approach for scientific technical journal articles per 100,000 inhabitants. On the left-hand side, you have selected countries. Finland, USA, I mentioned to you before that Finland was one of the first countries to deploy knowledge economy in Europe. USA, OECD, the average, Japan, Ireland, Spain, Korea, again, and China. And as you can see, Korea is ranking better than China. And Latin America and the Caribbean, again, the scale on the left is 0.90, the scale on the right is 0.9. So there is a lot of work to be done in Latin America and the Caribbean. And this is why I'm so excited to work in Brazil, because it's a real battlefield for testing this concept for my foundation. Now, so far we have talked about knowledge economy, but our presentation is about how the knowledge economy approach will serve for the social inclusion of people with disability. Remember, PWD is people with disabilities. So let's try to make, first of all, to have a picture of the people with disability, the concept of people with disability. I don't know the audience, so it's very difficult for me to tailor the slides to the general audience. But anyway, these are data that could be very, let's say, interesting in order for you and for me to understand this important part of our society of people with disability. People with disability represent approximately 1/6 of the working age population globally and continue to be unemployed and underemployed compared to the non-disabled peers. In the USA, 29% of students with any disability have a learning disability. This is important. Learning disability complicates things. Of course, the ICT are opening a new host of opportunity, and it's quite, let's say, self-explanatory in terms of education, employment, health, and public service. But ICT are not generally accessible for people with disability. And why they're not, let's say, ICT accessible? Because, for instance, we have web pages that do not meet the accessibility guidelines that create barriers to students with disabilities. We experience an inaccessible web-based recruiting system that present really problems versus the one using a primarily visually oriented point-and-click environment. And of course, if you're outside the net, and it is not a slogan, but it's a reality, their reality means being information poor. And being information poor is establishing a pattern of inequality. This is what we do not want. We do want having everybody participate in the society. And if we can do it for people that are not, they don't have any disability, we should first think about people with disabilities, because once we've done it for them, then the rest comes very easily. The impact of this isolation is particularly damaging in poor countries, because when you raise poor, I mean, imagine the situation of disability and learning disability in the USA. Now, multiplying these difficulties in developing countries where resources are scarce and where economic limitation reduce the exposure of people with disability to progress, not only in ICT. First of all, the exposure of people with disability. There are countries where they do not know how many, what is the percentage of the population with disability. There is no statistics as such. And so imagine if you don't provide the normal means of ICT in general, generally speaking, to those people, they will be completely, definitely isolated for the rest of their life. So this is why it's important to join the two concepts: how to make people with disabilities socially included through the deployment of a knowledge economy approach when we look at the strategies of government, economic strategies of government. This is why I think that the instruments used by the KE can be applied successfully to improve the quality of life and inclusion of people with disability in our society. And I also think that the knowledge economy synoptic approach multiplies the impact of individual policies focusing on the needs of people with disability. Again, having a synoptical approach means also that we can tackle the challenge in a very comprehensive way instead of looking at different sectors. This is a slide where I tried, it's a kind of exercise, I tried to, let's say, link literally the 5 pillars of a knowledge economy to the particular interests of this target of our presentation, people with disability. So you remember the 5 pillars we mentioned before and we agreed upon are innovation, education, ICT, social inclusion, policy institutions tailored for those purposes, seamlessly merged and, let's say, financed in coordination. Now, let's see how we have, let's say, a direct link of these 5 pillars to the interests and activities and priorities of people with disability. Innovation is at the base of research and development applied to the specific needs of people with disability. Education, good education, formal and informal, accelerates the incorporation of PWD in society. ICT is a basic key to interface PWD and their environment. A better interface and greater opportunities mean greater social inclusion. But in order to ensure social inclusion, to fund innovation, to make education accessible to all people with disability, policy institutions tailored for those purposes are needed. So this is a message for the central governments at the moment when they draft their policy institutional strategies. If we tackle the social inclusion to the concept of the knowledge economy, we are applying, as we said, the instruments simultaneously currently. But the outcomes, I mean, what we want to achieve are, at the end of the day, the accessibility to public and private service, the personal mobility of people with disability, health and education improve, employment is absolutely important because the people with disability could be an asset for a country if they're provided with the right means. And we think, at least Brazil thought, that in launching the CETI, the Center of Excellent Technology Innovation for the Social Inclusion of People with Disability, it would, let's say, comply with this requirement of having people with disability converting to an asset in the labor market. Habilitation, rehabilitation, goes without saying, participation in political and social life, and fostering a life of equality and non-discrimination. So if we take into consideration all these elements, at the end of the day, the KE approach can add an economic dimension to the inclusion of PWD in society. As we said before, PWD are a sector of society with special capabilities and specific knowledge prospect. And if they are provided with the right means, they can participate actively in knowledge generation, knowledge management, knowledge utilization, and knowledge transmission. Now, we come at another block of my presentation. We are seeing again, just as a kind of reminder, we saw the concept of knowledge economy, we agreed about that, then we define the way of deploying knowledge economy, and we define the intersection or the interconnection between knowledge economy and people with disability. Now, let's see how the knowledge economy could be let's say, deployed within a country that decide to go technological, I mean, to deploy an e-governance. You will see that all these concepts at the end of my presentation will focus into the best practice, that is the CETID, the Brazilian best practice that will be launched next year in Sao Paulo. An e-governance strategy, and my e-governance strategy I refer to as a governance using ICT. For governance, I'm not referring only to e-government, but any kind of governance, is the one that utilizes a comprehensive knowledge economy approach to address disparities in access to educational, employment, and social opportunities for the people with disability. And this would require, if we don't want to have disparities, governmental initiatives, engagement of policymakers, educational initiatives, institutional change leading to improved employer policies, economic development initiatives, and support for needed research. Let's see one by one what we need, what I say, a government policy initiatives, engagement of policymakers, what should include. In my opinion, these are the points that we should be included. A development of universal and industry standards for ICT accessibility, and particularly across industry and housing. Why I'm saying housing? Because people with disabilities should be socially included during the work and during their normal life. So we have to provide them also with means to be included when they are staying at home, and not only with houses that are compliant with architectural standards for people with disability, but also with those technological means like ICT that could let them be included throughout the 24 hours of their day. Brazil is looking at this point from a synergical point of view, because whereas the State Secretary of the Right of People with Disabilities is looking at the creation of CETID, at the same time is cooperating with the Ministry of Housing in order to build houses for people with disability that would be compliant to this requirement of having standard for ICT accessibility. Then another action should be the passage and enforcement of legislation regarding ICT accessibility and equal access to education and employment. And third one, the creation of education and informational service networks to provide ongoing consultation to employers and educators on these issues. The other point that we listed was the education initiative that should include ensuring the accessibility of ICT to facilitate the full participation, and in such a way of creating non-discriminatory environments in course planning, programming, and policy and procedure, and creating learning opportunities for ICT knowledge for students with disabilities. And of course, prepare for the knowledge economy as a part of the education, youth, with disability. I want just to open up here a little bit to make a little commercial, if Anna allows me. Next year, 2012, we'll be launching, when I say we, I mean a group of universities that agreed to work with the foundation. There are the University of Sao Paulo, Brazil, 2 universities in Korea, 1 university in Italy, and we are, let's say, negotiating with the ICT Center of Excellence, Kofi Annan in Ghana for Africa. We'll put together in order to create a course, a summer school, to prepare students on the subject of knowledge economy as part of the education of those students. So it will be a very exciting experience, because we will have different universities from the different continents of the world, and through a kind of exchange program, trying to prepare a student to the profession of ICT for development with an approach, a cultural approach to knowledge economy. This will help the future generation of people working in development to look at development from a different perspective. We also, before the institutional change, let's see what the institutional change leading to improved employer policy should include. Of course, policies, enact policies and develop best practice that facilitate the involvement of persons with disability in teams. Assuring that the resulting products and services will be accessible to PWD, planning a strategic workforce including PWD, and ensuring equitable access to training, development, and accessible ICT procurement strategy. I think this is quite important. The 4th point was the economic development initiative that should include, in my opinion, support of employer-provided degree programs, funding of partnership between enterprise education institutions, and partnership with education enterprise networks to provide ICT accessibility consultation, and we also said before, in particular, housing. And the 5th and last point is the support to needed research that should include the ICT accessibility, again, the needs of people with disability in the development of national and international ICT strategies, establish a global dialogue on common goals, and identify common standards of ICT accessibility. And the last point is, to me, very important, identify critical elements of a truly effective global information strategy which will minimize bias and promote the interests of people with disability worldwide. So, again, concept of knowledge economy, the concept of people with disability, how the 2 concepts are linked together. Now, let's see what is really cooking in order to have this concept made real and to go from a vision to an action. And this is the work that the state of the Sao Paulo Secretariat for the Rights of the Person with Disability has launched, is the creation of a Center of Excellence in Technology Innovation for the Social Inclusion of People with Disability, in order to address all the challenges that we have identified previously, and tackling the social inclusion using the concept and instruments of the knowledge economy in the context of a state-sponsored e-governance strategy. This last statement is also important, and I want to make a link to the publication that I edited with other 2 co-authors, and that has been published recently by IGI Publisher. The book is Global Strategy and Practice of E-Governance, Examples from Around the World. And the preface has been signed by the former president of the IDB, Mr. Enrique Iglesias. And afterwards, it's been signed by the governor of the state of Sao Paulo, Brazil, as a testimonial of the political will of the state to leapfrog into a knowledge economy. And the CETID is the concrete, let's say, result of this, of the political will. CETID will operate as a promoter of technology innovation applied to people with disability in those areas, but this is not an exhaustive list. We have started identifying those sectors, but of course, little by little, we hope that the CETI will be encompassing other sectors. And it will be a great support of the application of ICT to the social inclusion of people with disability. The mission of the CETI will be a bridge between academy and industry to promote marketing of innovation products, facilitate market information for better service, access to education, and access to learning on new skills to enhance employability, very important concept, a certification agency for innovation-rich products and service for people with disability, and an incubator of new projects. Actually, we are in this precise we're going to explore a memorandum of understanding between Korea with their program called Quality of Life and State Secretariat of Brazil in order to identify those projects that could be financed within the CETI, that launched within the CETI, as the first operational projects of this new center. CETI, of course, will use those knowledge economy instruments, the 5 pillars that we saw before, to promote social inclusion of people with disability through their active participation in the economy. And in order to do so, the CETI will be organized in 3 primarily sectors: industrial innovation for special needs, innovative labor market for special needs, and social infrastructure adaptations for the integration of people with disability. So I think that I made it within the given time, and I thank you for the passion to listen to me, and I'm open to any question you might have.
Hello again, and thank you, Mr. Piaggesi, for the wonderful presentation. We're so glad that everybody could join us for this event. I'd like to take a moment to tell you a little about IGI Global. We publish the latest research in information, computer science, and technology as applied to business and public administration, engineering, education, and medical health care, and social science through our books, journals, cases, and databases. If you enjoyed Mr. Piaggesi's presentation today, you can purchase his research through our website at www.igiglobal.com. Another great way to access Mr. Piaggesi's research is through our InfoSci Books database, which contains over 1,600 book and reference publications. Also, we have an InfoSci Journals database, which contains research articles from over 130 journal publications. Finally, you can also purchase the research through our InfoSci on-demand pay-per-view ordering service. If you visit our website, you can order individual chapters from Mr. Piaggesi's book, as well as any other research IGI Global has published. All of our book chapters and journal articles are available in our InfoSci on-demand database, which is a great option for teachers, students, and researchers who need immediate access to individual articles. Thank you again for participating in today's webinar. We hope to see you in our next webinar in August, when we'll be featuring Dr. Arvind Ashta, who will be presenting a webinar entitled Social Responsibility in the Information Age. If you have any questions in the meantime, please feel free to contact us at eresources@igiglobal.com. At this time, if there are any questions for Mr. Piaggesi, we will take them. Looks like we have a question from Lai Fee. Lai Fee, you can go ahead and talk now.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation.
We are not hearing you. Could you possibly talk or type into the chat box for us?
Sure. Hello.
Oh, hello. There you are.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I can't find the chat box. My question is whether the presenter can elaborate the role of social inclusion, because his definition is that social inclusion of social inclusion in the 5 pillars would actually enable development and not only growth. So I'm still not clear how social inclusion as included as one of